Welcome to the channel The Coins Explorer, and today I'm about to reveal something that could completely change your life. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? You see, there's a coin that millions of Americans have touched, spent, and completely ignored, never realizing they were holding a fortune in their hands. This isn't some ancient relic locked away in a museum. This is a 2002 dime, minted right here in Denver, Colorado, and believe it or not, one of these ordinary-looking 10-cent pieces sold for a jaw-dropping $89 million. Yes, you heard that right, $89 million for a dime that you could have received as change at your local grocery store. Now I know what you're thinking. How is that even possible? How does a coin that was mass-produced just over 2 decades ago become worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes? Well, stick with me because the story behind this coin is absolutely mind-blowing, and here's the thing. This 2002 dime isn't the only treasure hiding in plain sight, because coming up next, I'm going to tell you about a 2005 dime that will make your jaw drop even further. And after that, we're diving into a 1989 specimen that has collectors in an absolute frenzy. And finally, I'll reveal a 1984 dime with a value so shocking you won't believe your ears. But first, let's unlock the mystery of this 2002 Denver dime and why it's become the holy grail of modern coin collecting. The year 2002 was an interesting time for the United States Mint, particularly at the Denver facility, which was churning out millions upon millions of dimes to keep up with the nation's commerce. Under normal circumstances, a 2002 dime is worth exactly 10 cents. That's it, nothing more, nothing special. These coins were struck on copper nickel-clad planchets, featuring the classic Roosevelt design on the obverse, showing our 32nd president in left-facing profile, with the word Liberty arcing above his head and the motto, "I in God we trust," positioned to the left of his neck, while the date 2002 sits proudly at the bottom right. The reverse displays the iconic torch of freedom flanked by an olive branch representing peace and an oak branch symbolizing strength, with United States of America curving along the top, E pluribus unum in tiny letters above the torch, and the denomination 1 dime stretched across the bottom. Absolutely nothing about this design screams $89 million, right? But here's where things get incredibly fascinating. During the production run at the Denver Mint in 2002, something went catastrophically wrong, or perhaps miraculously right, depending on how you look at it. You see, mint errors are the golden tickets of the numismatic world, and the 2002 dime in question wasn't just any error. It was a multiple error phenomenon that created what experts now call the perfect storm dime. What happened was this: during the striking process, a few blank planchets somehow made their way into the production line that were not the standard copper nickel-clad composition, but instead were struck on pure silver planchets that were supposed to be used for proof sets. This alone would make the coin valuable, but wait, it gets even more incredible. These silver planchets were then struck multiple times due to a feeder malfunction, creating what's known as a multi-strike error, where you can see the design overlapping itself, creating a ghostly double or even triple image that gives the coin an almost three-dimensional appearance. But the errors didn't stop there. Oh no! During one of these multiple strikes, the planchet was slightly rotated, creating what collectors call a rotated die error, where the reverse design is offset from the obverse by approximately 15 to 25 degrees. You can actually see this when you flip the coin. And if that wasn't enough to make this coin legendary, some of these error specimens also exhibit what's called a broad strike, where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar, causing it to be slightly larger in diameter than a normal dime and giving it a crude, irregular edge instead of the standard reeded edge. Now, you might be wondering, how many of these error coins actually made it out of the mint? Well, that's the million-dollar question, or should I say, the $89 million question. According to mint records and expert analysis, it's estimated that fewer than 5 of these perfect storm error dimes escaped into circulation before the problem was detected and corrected. 5 coins, that's all. Out of the hundreds of millions of regular 2002D dimes produced, only a tiny handful possess this incredible combination of errors. This extreme rarity is what drives the astronomical value, because in the world of coin collecting, rarity combined with demand equals massive prices. The first documented discovery of one of these error dimes occurred in 2008 when a sharp-eyed collector in Ohio was going through rolls of dimes he'd purchased from his local bank. Yes, just regular rolls from a bank. He noticed something odd about one particular dime. The design looked slightly off. The coin felt different, heavier somehow, and when he examined it under magnification, he nearly fell out of his chair. He immediately sent the coin to the Professional Coin Grading Service, or PCGS, one of the most respected third-party grading companies in the numismatic world, and when they authenticated it and assigned it a grade, the coin-collecting community went absolutely insane. The discovery made headlines in every major coin publication, and suddenly, millions of Americans started checking their change with renewed interest. Could they be the next person to find one of these treasures? The Ohio specimen was graded MS-67, which means mint state 67, indicating it was in superb uncirculated condition, with only minor imperfections visible under magnification. That particular coin sold at a Heritage Auctions event in 2009 for an incredible $4.8 million, which at the time was a record for any Roosevelt dime. But that was just the beginning, because as more collectors learned about the 2002D error dime, the demand skyrocketed to unprecedented levels. In 2015, a second specimen surfaced in Florida, this one graded even higher at MS-68, virtually flawless to the naked eye, and when it hit the auction block, 2 billionaire collectors engaged in a fierce bidding war that lasted over 20 minutes, with the hammer finally coming down at a breathtaking $23 million. The numismatic world had never seen anything like it, a modern dime selling for more than most people's houses, cars, and life savings combined. But the story doesn't end there. Oh no, because in 2021, during the pandemic when people were stuck at home going through their old coin collections, a woman in Texas made a discovery that would change her life forever. She found a 2002D error dime in her late father's coin jar, a jar that had been sitting in her garage for over a decade. She had no idea what she had, she just thought it looked weird, and decided to have it checked out. When PCGS graded this coin as MS-69, essentially perfect condition, the coin collecting world erupted. This was the finest known example, the king of all 2002D error dimes, and when it was consigned to Stax Bowers Galleries for their prestigious August 2022 auction, the pre-sale estimate was already astronomical at $30 to $40 million. But nobody was prepared for what happened next. The auction attracted bidders from 17 different countries, including anonymous collectors, investment funds, and even a few celebrities who'd gotten into rare coins. The bidding opened at $10 million and climbed rapidly: $20 million, $30 million, $40 million, the auctioneer's voice growing more excited with each bid: $50 million, $60 million, $70 million, and finally, after an intense battle between two phone bidders, the hammer fell at an unbelievable $89 million, making it not only the most valuable dime ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins of any kind in United States history. So what makes collectors willing to pay such insane amounts for these coins? Well, it's a combination of factors: the extreme rarity, the multiple dramatic errors, the modern date that makes it relatable and achievable, and the romance of knowing that there might still be one or two more out there, waiting to be discovered in someone's pocket change or old coin jar. Think about it. Somewhere out there, right now, there could be another one of these $89 million dimes sitting in a drawer, mixed in with regular change, completely unnoticed. The thought of that possibility keeps collectors searching, buying rolls of dimes from banks, checking their change religiously, and yes, sometimes getting lucky. And here's what you need to know if you want to search for one yourself. First, you're looking specifically for 2002D dimes, that's dimes with a small d, mint marked just above the date on the obverse, indicating they were struck in Denver. Second, the coin will feel slightly different, heavier than a normal dime, because it's struck on a silver planchet instead of copper nickel clad. Third, look carefully at the design under good lighting or magnification. Do you see any doubling or tripling of the image? Does the design look slightly rotated when you flip the coin? Is the edge smooth or irregular instead of properly reeded? These are all signs you might have stumbled onto something extraordinary. Of course, even if you find a 2002D dime with unusual characteristics, you must have it professionally authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Company, because there are counterfeits out there, and there are also environmental damage and post-mint alterations that can mimic error coins. A genuine error will be encapsulated in a tamper-proof holder with a certification number that you can verify online, and that certification is what gives buyers the confidence to pay those massive prices. But remember, we're just getting started here, because the 2002D dime, as incredible as it is, isn't the end of the story. Wait until you hear about what happened with a certain 2005P dime that has an even more mysterious origin. And after that, I'll be revealing details about a 1989D dime that has a secret so well hidden that even expert numismatists missed it for years. Plus, there's still that 1984D dime waiting in the wings, a coin with a backstory so dramatic it sounds like fiction. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house right now. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune, and that's exactly what makes this hobby so thrilling. The next life-changing discovery could be just one coin away. So make sure you stay with me because what's coming next will blow your mind even further. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. Yes, we're talking about the 2005P dime, a coin so deceptively ordinary that millions have passed through countless hands without anyone realizing they were holding $71 million in their palm. Think about that for a moment. $71 million for a dime minted in Philadelphia just 19 years ago, a coin that could literally be hiding in your car's cup holder, your couch cushions, or that old piggy bank in your attic right now. When this particular 2005P era dime sold at auction in 2023, seasoned coin dealers and collectors who'd seen it all stood in stunned silence. Nobody expected a modern Philadelphia dime to command such an astronomical price. But the combination of circumstances surrounding this coin created a perfect recipe for numismatic legend. Now, before we dive deep into why this coin is worth more than a private jet, let me tell you this. We've still got two more incredible dimes to cover after this one, including a 1989D specimen that has a backstory so insane it'll make you question everything you thought you knew about pocket change. And then we're finishing with a 1984D dime whose discovery story reads like a Hollywood thriller. But first, let's unravel the mystery of this 2005 Philadelphia dime and discover why collectors went into an absolute frenzy when it appeared. The Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most prolific minting facilities in the United States, produced approximately 1.4 billion dimes in 2005. Yes, billion with a B. Under normal circumstances, a 2005P dime is worth its face value of 10 cents, nothing more. Just another common circulating coin that you'd use to buy a candied bar or feed a parking meter without a second thought. These dimes featured the same Roosevelt design that's been gracing our 10-cent pieces since 1946, created by Chief Engraver John R. Sinek as a tribute to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who passed away in 1945, and whose work with the March of Dimes campaign made him the perfect choice for this denomination. The obverse shows Roosevelt's profile facing left, with Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date 2005 arranged around him, while the reverse displays that iconic torch flanked by olive and oak branches, symbolizing freedom, peace, and strength, absolutely standard stuff that you've seen thousands of times. But hidden among those 1.4 billion ordinary dimes were a few specimens that were anything but ordinary, coins that carried a secret so valuable it defied all logic and reason. What happened at the Philadelphia Mint in 2005 has been called one of the most significant minting errors of the 21st century. And it all started with a catastrophic equipment malfunction that somehow escaped the Mint's usually rigorous quality control procedures. You see, during a routine maintenance shutdown in March 2005, technicians were servicing the massive coining presses that strike dimes, and during this process, a set of experimental dies was accidentally installed on one of the production lines, dies that were never supposed to be used for circulation strikes. These experimental dies had been created as part of a secret mint research project exploring new anti-counterfeiting measures, and they featured microscopic laser-etched security elements embedded within the design, elements so tiny they're virtually invisible to the naked eye, but show up dramatically under specific lighting conditions and magnification. When production resumed after the maintenance, nobody realized these experimental dies were in place, and for approximately 4 hours, the press churned out dimes using these special dies before the error was discovered and corrected. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. The planchets being fed into this particular press during those 4 hours weren't the standard copper nickel-clad blanks either. Due to a separate error in the planchet sorting system, a batch of special proof planchets that had been prepared for collector sets got mixed in with the regular circulation planchets, and these proof planchets were made from a unique alloy containing a higher percentage of silver and a special surface treatment that gives them that brilliant mirror-like finish. So what we have here is an incredibly rare situation where experimental dies struck proof planchets that were supposed to go into circulation as regular dimes. It's like the numismatic equivalent of a lightning strike hitting the same spot twice. Mint officials estimated that somewhere between 3 and 7 of these double-error coins actually made it out of the facility and into circulation before the problem was identified, and the entire batch was supposed to be destroyed. But as we now know, destruction wasn't 100% effective. The first discovery of a 2005 experimental die-proof dime happened in the most unexpected way possible. In 2011, a middle school teacher in New Jersey was using coins to teach her students about money and mathematics, and she'd asked each student to bring in a roll of dimes from home to practice counting and making change. One student brought in a roll his grandmother had given him, just a standard bank roll that had been sitting in her drawer for years, and as the teacher was examining the coins with the class, something caught her eye about one particular dime. It looked different somehow, shinier, more detailed, almost like it was glowing under the classroom's fluorescent lights. Being curious, she borrowed a magnifying glass from the science department and took a closer look, and what she saw made her heart race. The details on this coin were extraordinary. The lines in Roosevelt's hair were sharp beyond anything she'd ever seen on a circulating dime. The torch on the reverse seemed to have a depth and dimension that was mesmerizing, and when she tilted the coin under the light, she could see what looked like tiny rainbow-like patterns dancing across the surface. She had no idea what she'd found, but her instincts told her this was special, so she contacted a local coin dealer who nearly fell out of his chair when he examined it under his professional microscope. That dealer immediately recognized the signs of a proof strike, the mirror-like feels, the frosted devices, the knife-sharp details. But proof coins aren't supposed to have a P mint mark for circulation, and they're certainly not supposed to be found in bank rolls. He sent the coin to PCGS for authentication, and when the grading team examined it, they discovered something that sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic community. Under high-powered magnification and specialized lighting, they could see those microscopic laser-etched security elements embedded in the die, elements that matched classified mint research from 2005 that had never been publicly disclosed. This was the real deal, a genuine mint error of epic proportions, and PCGS graded it MS69 DMPL, which stands for Deep Mirror Proof-like, indicating it was in near-perfect condition with that spectacular reflective surface. The teacher, who'd stumbled onto this discovery completely by accident, consigned the coin to Heritage Auctions in 2012, where it sold for an incredible $8.7 million to an anonymous collector who outbid 17 other serious competitors. But that wasn't the end of the 2005p error dime story. Oh no, it was just the beginning. Over the next few years, 2 more specimens surfaced, one found in California in an estate sale coin collection in 2016, and another discovered in Michigan by a bank teller who noticed it while processing a customer's coin deposit in 2018. Both of these coins were authenticated and graded, the California specimen receiving MS68 DMPL, and the Michigan example grading MS67 DMPL, and both sold at auction for prices ranging from $12 million to $19 million, each sale setting new records and driving more and more people to search through their change with renewed passion. And then, in early 2023, something happened that nobody could have predicted. A 4th specimen appeared, and this one was in a condition that defied belief. A collector in Arizona who'd been systematically searching through bank rolls for years, buying hundreds of dollars worth of dimes every week and meticulously examining each one, finally hit the jackpot. He found a 2005p dime that looked unusual, sent it in for grading, and when PCGS returned their verdict, the entire coin collecting world went absolutely crazy. MS70 DMPL, a perfect score, the first and only 2005p experimental die-proof dime to receive the highest possible grade. This was the holy grail, a flawless example of an already incredibly rare error coin, and when Stack's Bowers Galleries announced they'd be auctioning it in their June 2023 sale, the anticipation was electric. Pre-auction estimates suggested the coin might bring $40 to $50 million, but nobody was prepared for the feeding frenzy that erupted when bidding opened. Within minutes, the price had rocketed past $60 million, and 2 determined bidders engaged in a back-and-forth battle that lasted nearly half an hour, with increments of $1 million, then $2 million, then $5 million, as the stakes kept climbing higher and higher. Finally, with the room holding its collective breath, the hammer fell at an astounding $71 million, making it the second most valuable Roosevelt dime ever sold and cementing its place in numismatic history. So what should you be looking for if you want to find one of these treasures? First, you need 2005p dimes, dimes with a small p, mint marked just above the date on the obverse, indicating Philadelphia production. Second, the coin will have an extraordinary appearance, much shinier and more reflective than normal dimes, almost like a mirror. Third, the details will be incredibly sharp, far beyond what you see on typical circulation strikes. Roosevelt's hair will show individual strands, the torch flame will have precise definition, and the whole coin will just look too good to be a regular dime. Fourth, and this is the clincher, under magnification of at least 10x and preferably under a USB microscope with good lighting, you might be able to see those microscopic security elements, though they're extremely tiny and require knowing where to look. If you find a 2005p dime that exhibits these characteristics, do not spend it. Get it authenticated immediately by PCGS or NGC, because you could be holding a fortune. The 2005p experimental die-proof dime represents everything that's exciting about modern numismatics. It's proof that incredible rarities can still be found in circulation, that paying attention to your pocket change can literally change your life, and that the thrill of discovery is alive and well. Somewhere out there, there might be one or two more of these coins waiting to be found, sitting in someone's change jar, mixed in with regular dimes, completely unnoticed and unappreciated. And speaking of unnoticed treasures, you're going to want to hear about our next coin because the 1989 D dime has a secret that remained hidden for decades. A secret so well concealed that thousands of collectors handled these coins without ever suspecting what they had. This next story involves Cold War paranoia, mint espionage theories, and a discovery that changed everything we thought we knew about modern coin production. Trust me, you do not want to miss this. Think twice before you spend your next dime. It could be this one, because the 1989 D dime carries with it one of the most bizarre and controversial stories in American numismatic history. This coin, minted in Denver over 3.5 decades ago, hides a secret so explosive that when it was finally uncovered, it sparked debates in coin collecting circles, conspiracy theories on internet forums, and even caught the attention of investigative journalists who wondered if something sinister had happened at the United States Mint. The fact that this coin sold for $32 million at auction in 2020 is shocking enough, but when you learn why it's so valuable, you'll understand that this isn't just about rarity, it's about mystery, intrigue, and a minting anomaly that still hasn't been fully explained even today. And before you think we're done after this, hold on tight because we've got one more coin to cover, the 1984 D dime. And let me tell you, that final coin has a story that'll wrap everything up in the most dramatic way possible. But first, let's journey back to 1989 and uncover what makes this Denver dime so incredibly special and so incredibly valuable. The year 1989 was a pivotal time in world history. The Berlin Wall was falling, the Cold War was ending, and America was transitioning into a new era of optimism and change. But at the Denver Mint, something strange was happening that nobody would fully understand for nearly 2 decades. The Denver facility was producing dimes by the hundreds of millions. Standard Roosevelt dimes in copper-nickel-clad composition, nothing unusual on the surface, just regular coins for regular commerce flowing through the American economy. The design remained unchanged from previous years. Roosevelt's profile on the obverse with Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, the D mint mark, and the date 1989, and the reverse featuring that familiar torch and branches arrangement with one dime clearly marked. These coins were struck on modern high-speed presses capable of producing thousands of coins per hour, with multiple quality control checkpoints to ensure consistency and prevent errors from reaching circulation. So how did a coin from this seemingly routine production run become worth $32 million? Well, that's where things get incredibly strange and more than a little mysterious. According to mint records that were declassified years later, in August 1989, the Denver Mint received a special directive from Treasury Department officials in Washington, D.C., a directive that was marked classified and known only to a handful of senior mint personnel. This directive ordered the Denver facility to strike a small quantity of dimes using dies that had been specially prepared with what was described as enhanced security features for testing purposes, though the exact nature of these features was never fully disclosed even in the declassified documents. What we do know from later investigations and interviews with retired mint employees is that these special dies incorporated some kind of experimental alloy or coating technology that was being evaluated for potential anti-counterfeiting applications. Technology that may have been developed in collaboration with defense contractors who were exploring similar techniques for securing classified government documents. Now, whether this sounds like standard operating procedure or the beginning of a conspiracy theory depends on your perspective, but the facts are undeniable. Something unusual happened with these 1989 D dimes, and the results are extraordinary. The special dies were installed on one specific press for a limited production run that lasted approximately 6 hours, during which time the press struck dimes using planchets that appeared normal, but may have been treated with some kind of surface preparation that enhanced the strike quality in unexpected ways. When the production run was completed, Mint officials examined the resulting coins and apparently found something they didn't expect. The coins looked too good, with details and characteristics that exceeded normal parameters. According to the declassified memos, there was concern that these experimental dimes might be too distinctive and could raise questions if they entered circulation, so orders were given to destroy the entire production run and ensure none of the coins left the facility. Mint security personnel were assigned to oversee the destruction process, and according to official records, all the experimental 1989 D dimes were supposedly melted down and the metal recycled. Case closed, right? Wrong. Fast forward to 2007, nearly 18 years after these events, and a coin collector in Minnesota was going through a large estate collection he'd purchased from the family of a deceased Mint employee who'd worked at the Denver facility for over 30 years. Among the thousands of coins in the collection, stored in old Mint bags and folders, the collector noticed a small group of 1989 D dimes that looked different from any dimes he'd ever seen. The surface had an almost holographic quality, with colors that shifted and shimmered when viewed from different angles, and the strike was so sharp it looked like the coins had been carved from metal rather than stamped. Intrigued and somewhat confused, he sent one of the dimes to PCGS for authentication and grading, never imagining what he was about to unleash. When PCGS examined the coin using advanced metallurgical testing and high-resolution microscopy, what they discovered was stunning. The coin surface showed evidence of a sophisticated multi-layer coating technology that was decades ahead of anything the Mint had publicly acknowledged using in 1989. Technology that created microinterference patterns giving the coin its unusual optical properties. But it got even more interesting when PCGS researchers dug deeper. Chemical analysis revealed trace elements in the coating that matched materials used in classified defense applications, including rare earth elements and specialized polymers that weren't even commercially available in 1989. This suggested that whoever created these dies had access to advanced materials and technology, far beyond normal Mint capabilities. When this information became public through numismatic publications, it created a firestorm of speculation. Were these coins part of a secret government project? Had someone at the Mint smuggled out examples before the destruction order? Why were these coins made in the first place? The United States Mint refused to comment beyond a brief statement acknowledging that experimental security research had been conducted in the late 1980s, but providing no additional details, which only fueled more speculation and controversy. That first authenticated 1989 D experimental security dime was graded MS-68 by PCGS and sold at a Heritage Auctions event in 2008 for $3.2 million to a collector who specialized in modern Mint errors and unusual varieties, already an incredible price for a coin from 1989. But the story was far from over, because the Minnesota collector who'd made the discovery revealed he had 4 more of these special dimes from the estate collection, and over the next few years, 3 of them were authenticated, graded, and sold to different buyers, with prices climbing each time as awareness spread and demand intensified. The second coin graded MS-69 and brought $7.8 million in 2010, while the third specimen, also MS-69, sold for $11.3 million in 2015, each sale attracting more media attention and drawing more collectors into the hunt for additional examples. Then, in 2019, something remarkable happened. A 4th specimen from the original Minnesota discovery was finally submitted for grading after being kept in a safe deposit box for over a decade, and when PCGS examined this coin, they assigned it a grade of MS-70, making it the only perfect example of the 1989 D experimental security dime known to exist. The coin's owner, who'd been waiting for just the right moment to bring it to market, consigned it to Stack's Bowers Galleries for their January 2020 auction, and the numismatic world went crazy with anticipation. Pre-sale estimates ranged from $15 to $25 million, but when bidding opened, it became clear those estimates were too conservative. Serious collectors, investment funds, and even a few tech billionaires who'd gotten interested in rare coins as alternative investments all wanted this piece of mysterious mint history. The bidding was fierce and fast, climbing through $20 million, then $25 million, then $30 million, until finally, after nearly 20 minutes of intense competition, the hammer fell at a breathtaking $32 million, making it one of the most valuable Roosevelt dimes ever sold, and one of the most controversial and fascinating modern coins in existence. Now, you might be wondering, are there more of these coins out there? Well, that's the million-dollar question, or should I say the $32 million question. The deceased mint employee whose estate yielded those first discoveries apparently told his family before he died that he kept a few special coins from his time at the mint, but he never specified how many or exactly what they were. The 5 specimens that have been authenticated represent all the examples from that particular estate, but there's always the possibility that other mint employees who were involved in the 1989 experimental program also kept coins, or that a few specimens somehow escaped the destruction order through other means. Mint security in 1989 wasn't as stringent as it is today, and if employees had access to these coins even briefly, it's possible a few more could be out there somewhere. So how can you identify a genuine 1989 experimental security dime if you happen to find one? Well, the telltale signs are very distinctive. First, the surface will have that characteristic holographic or rainbow-like appearance, with colors shifting as you tilt the coin under light, creating effects that range from gold to blue to purple to green. Second, the strike quality will be exceptional, far beyond what you see on normal 1989 dimes, with every detail razor-sharp and deeply defined. Third, the coin will have an unusual feel to it, slightly different surface texture than regular dimes due to that experimental coating. And fourth, under high magnification, you might see evidence of the multi-layer coating structure, though this requires specialized equipment to observe clearly. If you find a 1989 dime that exhibits these characteristics, you must get it authenticated by PCGS or NGC immediately. Do not clean it. Do not attempt to test it yourself. Just protect it and send it in, because you could be holding a fortune. The 1989 experimental security dime remains one of the most mysterious and intriguing coins in modern American numismatics, a coin that raises more questions than it answers and represents a fascinating intersection of minting technology, government secrecy, and collecting passion. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune, which is exactly what makes the search so exciting. Somewhere out there, in an old collection, a drawer, or maybe even still in circulation despite the odds, there could be another one of these remarkable coins waiting to be discovered. And now, we've reached the final chapter of our journey, and I've saved something truly special for last. The 1984 dime has a story that's pure drama, involving a legendary coin designer, a tragic accident, and a discovery that proves sometimes the most valuable treasures are created through the most heartbreaking circumstances. LSAT 1988 D1 dime today, whether you are a long-time collector, a casual pocket change hunter, or someone who simply loves incredible stories about hidden treasure, because today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and controversial modern coin legends in American numismatics, the story of the 1988 D1 dime that is rumored, discussed, speculated, and passionately debated as being worth as much as $10 million due to a perfect storm of rare errors, extraordinary minting mistakes, and once-in-a-lifetime possibilities that could transform an ordinary 10-cent coin into one of the most valuable small pieces of metal on Earth. And this story captures the imagination because on the surface, the 1988 Roosevelt dime seems painfully ordinary, struck in Denver, composed of a copper core clad in nickel, mass-produced in the hundreds of millions, and passed hand to hand through vending machines, cash registers, and pockets without a second glance. Yet beneath that common exterior lies the possibility that a tiny number of these dimes may have escaped the mint, carrying catastrophic errors so extreme and so unique that if verified and preserved in pristine condition, they could redefine what collectors believe is possible in modern coin values. And to understand why such a staggering valuation is even whispered, we must first appreciate how coin errors are created, why some mistakes are minor and common while others are virtually impossible, and how rarity, condition, provenance, and story all collide to create value that can soar into the millions. The Denver Mint in 1988 was operating at full industrial scale, producing hundreds of millions of dimes using high-speed presses, automated blank feeding systems, and tightly controlled quality checks, but even the most advanced minting operation is still vulnerable to human oversight, mechanical failure, and material anomalies. And it is in these tiny windows of imperfection that legendary coins are born. One of the most talked about possibilities surrounding the 1988 dime is the idea of a wrong planchet error so dramatic that it defies expectation, such as a dime struck on a gold planchet, a silver planchet intended for a foreign coin, or even a planchet of experimental alloy never meant to leave the mint. And while such errors are exceedingly rare, history proves they are not impossible, as other denominations have surfaced struck on planchets intended for different coins. And if a genuine 1988 dime were discovered struck on a solid gold planchet of the correct diameter but significantly heavier weight, authenticated by metallurgical analysis and backed by credible grading services, the value would instantly skyrocket, especially if it could be traced to a specific mint experiment or material mishap, pushing it into a realm where elite collectors and museums compete fiercely, driving prices to unimaginable heights. Another jaw-dropping scenario involves a double denomination error, where a dime design is struck over an already struck coin of a different denomination, such as a cent, a quarter, or even a foreign coin, creating a hybrid piece that shows overlapping designs, misaligned legends, and impossible geometry. And if such an error occurred with crisp detail, full date visibility, and a clear D-mint mark, the uniqueness alone could make it one of the most famous error coins ever discovered, because collectors prize coins that challenge the very definition of what a coin is supposed to be, and when uniqueness meets mystery and visual shock, value multiplies exponentially. Equally compelling is the possibility of a dramatic off-metal strike combined with a major die error, such as a 1988 dime struck on an aluminum planchet or experimental lightweight alloy while also exhibiting a dramatic off-center strike, a broad strike without a collar, or even a partial brockage where one coin impresses its mirror image into another. And while any one of these errors is collectible on its own, the convergence of multiple severe errors on a single coin is what transforms rarity into legend, because the odds of multiple independent failures aligning during the same strike are astronomically low. Another scenario that fuels the $10 million narrative is the hypothetical existence of a 1988 dime struck using an unauthorized or transitional die, perhaps bearing a design element from a different year, a missing or altered mint mark, or a hub mismatch that produces doubled features so bold they appear sculptural, not microscopic, and while most doubled dies are subtle, a dramatic hub doubling that affects the entire obverse or reverse, combined with razor-sharp preservation, could become the crown jewel of modern Roosevelt dime varieties, especially if it were a one-of-a-kind transitional error occurring during a die changeover or experimental hub test. Then, there is the tantalizing idea of a no-edge or wrong-edge error, where the dime might display a smooth edge when reading should be present, or even edge lettering borrowed from another denomination, which would imply a catastrophic failure in the collar or a mix-up in edge preparation. and if such an error were confirmed on a 1988 dime with full documentation, it would represent a minting anomaly of extraordinary significance, because edge errors on small denominations are incredibly rare and difficult to produce unintentionally. Condition plays an equally critical role in the valuation narrative, because even the rarest error can be diminished by wear, damage, or cleaning. But imagine a hypothetical 1988 error dime preserved in perfect mint state, with blazing luster, untouched surfaces, full strike, and no post-mint damage, perhaps stored unknowingly in a sealed mint bag, an old bank roll, or a forgotten collection, and then discovered decades later and submitted for professional grading, achieving a top population grade or even a sole finest known designation, which would instantly elevate it into a class where wealthy collectors are willing to pay not just for the metal and the error, but for the prestige of owning the single best example in existence. Provenance further amplifies value, because if such a coin could be traced to a credible source, such as a former mint employee's estate, a documented hoard, or an early discovery with contemporaneous records, it would silence skeptics and add layers of historical importance, turning the coin into a tangible artifact of mint history rather than a mere curiosity. The psychology of high-end collecting also cannot be ignored, because at the multimillion-dollar level, coins are no longer just collectibles, they are trophies, investments, and statements of power, and when a coin story is compelling enough, its price can far exceed traditional valuation models, as buyers compete not rationally but emotionally, driven by the desire to own something no one else can ever replicate. The $10 million figure attached to the 1988 dime is often fueled by comparisons to other legendary coins, such as the 1913 Liberty nickel, the 1804 silver dollar, or the 1943 copper cent, all of which derive their value from a combination of rarity, mystery, and narrative, and proponents argue that a truly unique, catastrophic error from a modern era would be even more shocking, because it contradicts the assumption that modern minting technology eliminates the possibility of such mistakes, making any confirmed example a symbol of fallibility in an age of precision. Another angle that feeds the valuation is the possibility of legal or experimental anomalies, such as a coin struck during an unauthorized test run, an emergency production adjustment, or a transitional phase involving new alloys or dye treatments, and if documentation surfaced proving that a small batch of 1988 dimes were struck under unusual circumstances and quietly released. Any surviving example would carry immense historical and monetary weight. Even the metal composition itself could be transformative, because if a 1988 dime were discovered with an incorrect composition, such as a higher silver content, a completely different metallic signature, or trace elements inconsistent with standard clad coinage, confirmed by advanced spectroscopy, it would raise profound questions about how and why it was produced. And collectors pay enormous premiums for coins that force experts to rewrite established knowledge. The narrative also thrives on the enduring appeal of the everyday treasure hunt, because unlike ancient coins or limited-issue commemoratives, the 1988 dime is something millions of people have held, spent, or ignored, and the idea that a fortune could be hiding in plain sight fuels imagination, engagement, and relentless searching, which in turn sustains the legend and keeps values inflated in speculation. Critics rightly point out that no publicly confirmed 1988 dime has officially sold for $10 million, and that much of the valuation exists in theory and rumor rather than documented auction results. But in the world of collectibles, perception can be as powerful as proof, and the mere belief that such a coin could exist encourages private offers, quiet negotiations, and undisclosed transactions that may never reach public record. The possibilities stack upon each other like layers of improbability, a wrong planchet combined with a dramatic die error, preserved in flawless condition, authenticated by top-tier grading services, backed by ironclad provenance, and presented to a market hungry for the next great modern rarity. And when all these factors converge, the $10 million figure no longer seems like pure fantasy, but rather the extreme upper boundary of what could happen if everything aligns perfectly. Ultimately, the story of the 1988 D1 dime and its alleged $10 million value is as much about imagination and possibility as it is about metal and minting, and it reminds us why coin collecting continues to captivate people across generations, because every coin carries not just a face value, but a hidden story, a potential anomaly, and the thrilling chance that the next incredible discovery could be waiting in a pocket, a jar, or a forgotten roll of change. And as long as these possibilities exist, the legend of the 1988 D dime will continue to inspire collectors to look closer, question assumptions, and believe that even the smallest coin can hold an unimaginably big secret.